Namaskar. Good morning to all of you. Today it is my privilege to welcome you to this second national webinar organized by the Center of Excellence for Studies in Classical Odia. Achakhyuh kavayah sarve sampratye chakhyate pare akhyasanti tathivanye itihasamimam bhuvi. This itihasa has already been told earlier. Now we are discussing and saying about the Isihasa, and in the future also our posterity will discuss on this Itihasa or the history of our tradition. Esteemed president of this event, Professor Patnaik, former Vice Chancellor of University of Culture, Utkal University of Culture, Professor C.G. Venkatesmurthy, eminent educationist and respected director of Central Institute of Indian Languages, Padma Shri Dr. Devi Prasanna Patnaik, founder director of CIL, who was the key person for the achievement of classical status for Odia language, Professor Fernandez, head of classical languages of CIL, today's key speaker, Professor Subrat Acharya, eminent philologist, epigraphist, and professor and head of the Department of History, Ravanshah University, Madam Dr. Mamata Mishra, manuscriptologist, editor, and secretary of K.V. Sarma Research Foundation, Chennai, and all other respected participants and listeners of this national webinar. At the outset, I, as the project director of Center of Excellence for Studies in Classical Odia, extend a warm welcome to all of you and request you to kindly cooperate with us in this national endeavor to preserve, promote, and propagate our classical languages. This is the second webinar, as I have already. The first webinar was organized on the topic Classical Odia Studies, Problems and Prospects. You all are aware that Odia became the sixth language declared as classical by the Government of India by fulfilling the all criteria laid by the Home Ministry of Government of India, and subsequently, as the provision of the government, the Center of Excellence for Classical Odia has been established in Bhubaneswar by Central Institute of Indian Languages as the nodal office to undertake and encourage research and documentation in the field of classical Odia language. I have the pleasure to mention you that when we had prepared a document to put before the expert linguist committee of Government of India for consideration of the classical status of Odia language, we have given the evidences in three major dimensions. First is the reference in several ancient classical texts about the land, ancient land of Odisha is called Kalinga, and the ancient Odia language, that is Udra. Different texts such as Bharata's Natya Shastra, Panini's Ashtadhyayi, Kautilya's Arthashastra, Mahabharata, Kalidasa's Raghuvansa, etc. We have given the evidences. The second is that the high antiquity and unbroken history of Odisha since 3rd century BC, during the period of Kalinga War, we have given the evidences that with the proof of inscriptions. The two famous Ashokan inscriptions, one at Dholi and other at Jogada. And beginning from that, after that, the Hathigumpha inscription of Emperor Kharvela, 1st century AD, and chronologically the development of Odia language on the basis of the epigraphy till the 15th century, your Jayavijay inscription in Jagannath temple. The third proof or third evidence we have given is the Odia literature has a long tradition of original uninfluenced writings of classical texts full of contents and also different various forms. And on the basis of all these evidences, the committee has recommended an Odia for the classical status. Today's webinar, the antiquity of Odia language, is conceived keeping on view of the guidelines of the Ministry for Classical Centers to identify the sources of classical Odia language through interdisciplinary subject areas, like particularly like history of Odia epigraphy and heritage of Odia manuscripts. Both eminent scholars in their respective fields, Professor Acharya and Dr. Madam Mishra, will present their views and enlighten us. In this connection, I only take this opportunity to mention that we have derived various words from these ancient inscriptions, Ashokan inscriptions at Dholi and Jaugada, and also in Hathigumpha inscription. These inscriptions have been deciphered by great historians and linguists like Professor Dinesh Chandra Sarkar, Professor Kunja Bihari Tripathi, Professor Sunit Kumar Chattopadhyay, and many others, and Satyanarayana Rajguru. And they have given the evidences that in all these epigraphy or the inscriptions, beginning from 3rd century BC till 15th century AD, the chronological development of Odia language is very evident. We have taken this from Dholi inscription. The words like tiki means some, tikisha means treatment, tini, three, picha, behind, dakkami, I see, chathame, you want, and all these so many words. I have no time to mention all these things. In this connection, I can also mention that in the history of Odia literature, Dr. Mayadhar Mansingh and some others, they have mentioned that the Hathigumpa inscription of Kharavela is a beautiful example of the ancient, most ancient literary piece of Odia language. In this connection, today's eminent speaker, Professor Acharya, will focus on the Odia inscriptions beginning from 11th century. The first inscription is Urajam Shilalekhha, Urajam inscription. Now lying, the Urajam village is in Andhra Pradesh, and this inscription is now in Madras Museum. That is the first Odia inscription as deciphered and told by Professor Tripathi, Kunja Bihari Tripathi, in his book, The Origin and Development of, or the Evolution of Odia Language and Script. From that, till 15th century, Jayabija inscription during the king Kapilendra Deva and his son Purushottama Deva. All these inscriptions, how they really shape the chronological evolution of Odia language. The other thing, the other aspect, today's aspect is our heritage of Odia manuscripts. We have a long tradition of manuscript writing, about 600 years or more than that. Madam Mishra will speak on that particularly. I have a very thin knowledge about it, and as I know, our Odisha State Museum has about more than 50,000 manuscripts, and National Manuscript Mission has given the picture that Odia language is the second highest number of manuscripts following Sanskrit. Sanskrit has more than 6 lakhs or something. Odia has more than 2 lakhs of manuscripts, ranging from different aspects and different parts of knowledge. So all these things, how this manuscript writing on palm leaf, it is a very great tradition, and as I see, this heritage is a very valuable thing for us. So today I am happy that I have requested 2 of these scholars, and they have agreed and they have joined with us. Really, we will be very obliged and enriched by their knowledge and expertise. I am also grateful to the director of CIL, Professor Venkatesh Murthy, that today I know he is busy. He is a very important meeting just now, and he has also requested and keep my request and agreed to inaugurate this webinar. And Professor Patnaik, former Vice Chancellor of our university, Utkal University of Culture, Professor Amya Kumar Patnaik, a great historian. He has also kept my request and agreed to preside over the webinar. Professor Fernandez, though he is busy with other works and now in Bhubaneswar, he has also joined with us. And above all, Dr. Devi Prasanna Patnaik, the founder director of CIL, he is with us always, and he is our mentor. He is like my fatherly figure. He is there. I will request him to speak for some time. And I am also grateful to all of the participants now attending this webinar. Now I request Professor Venkatesh Murthy, Honorable Director of CIL, with his kind words to inaugurate this webinar. Sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Professor Panda. I'm very happy that the Center of Excellence for Studies in Classical Odia has organized a national webinar on antiquity of Odia language today. And for this national webinar, Professor A.K. Patnaik has kindly accepted to be the chair. Thank you very much, Professor Patnaik, for having accepted our invitation to chair this. And we have two eminent speakers, Professor S.K. Acharya, who would be speaking on history of Odia epigraphy, and Dr. Mamata Mishra on heritage of Odia manuscripts. Two very important concerns are going to be discussed. And above all, we have Professor D.P. Patnaik, the Bhishma Pitamaha of language and the development of languages and Indian languages, who is with us, always to bless us and to mentor all of us, for whom I have a lot of reverence from 4 decades. And I'm so thankful to all of you for having made this possible today. Of course, the two important concerns, one on the history of Odia epigraphy and the heritage of Odia manuscript. They are such important concerns for our center. And Professor Panda has been very meticulous in identifying the two experts and then making it a big event today. Has also decided to document for a wider dissemination at a later point of time. Now, the chronological development of Odia language on the basis of epigraphy is something really fascinating. Odia language has a high antiquity and an unbroken history since 3rd century BC, evidenced by various inscriptions like Ashokan inscription at Dhauli and Jaugada in 3rd century, Hatigumpa inscription at Khandagiri in the 1st century AD of Emperor Karavela, Urajam inscription in 11th century of Anantavarma Deva, to Jayavijaya inscription in Jagannath temple in 15th century AD, inscribed by Kapileshwar Deva of Solar dynasty. The origin and development of Odia language in the light of the inscriptions is the authentic source of classical nature. The relation of Odia with Sanskrit, Pali, Prakrit, Apabhransh can also be traced with linguistic and historical evidences. According to the report of the National Manuscript Mission, Odia language comes in the 2nd position with around 213,088 manuscripts only next to Sanskrit. It has been learnt that the script was first written on a palm leaf and then transcribed to other forms. The information on the art of palm leaf writing can be obtained from various cultural works of the oldest temples in Odisha. Eminent scholar Satyanarayana Rajguru has mentioned that the art of writing on palm leaf had developed around 6th century AD. Oldest manuscript preserved in Odisha State Museum is of 1494 AD. A large number of manuscripts are in Oriental Manuscripts Library and Adyar Manuscripts Library of Madras. And even many have been transferred to London and other places. The first European scholar, Reverend J. Long, collected some Odia manuscripts and published a list in JASB in 1859. Then second scholar, Colonel Mackenzie, collected a large number of palm leaf Odia manuscripts. All these aspects will be vividly described today, I presume, in this webinar for the benefit of the scholars, research students, and people in the field of classical languages, of ancient history, epigraphy, paleography, manuscriptology in general, and the classical Odia scholars in particular. I'm very confident that a national webinar of this magnitude and intensity would be able to throw light on all these concerns, and we would be richer by understanding all of them. I congratulate Professor B.K. Panda, with meager resources at his disposal, has been constantly concerned about working for the classical Odia language in Orissa. And we are indeed very, very thankful to him for having made this possible today. And I would like to vouch on behalf of the Central Institute of Indian Languages that all possible help within our limits will be made available to you, Professor Panda, for undertaking all these activities. I know for sure that you have the support of all the scholars of Orissa for doing all these activities, and your activities will continue unabated. And I wish this national webinar a grand success, and I'm very glad that I'm a part of this inaugural function today, and I wish this webinar a grand success. And with this, I end my small address. Thank you very much, and good luck for this wonderful webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I am really grateful, immensely thankful to you that in your busy schedule you could attend this webinar and inaugurated this program. Always I will seek your advice and guidance to sustain this center and to carry on this type of academic endeavor. Thank you, sir. Now, I have the privilege to request Professor Fernandez, the head of classical languages of CIL, to speak a few words about this classical center and the real responsibility what we have taken to preserve and promote the classical languages. Professor Fernandez, sir.
Good morning, everyone. Professor C.G. Venkateshamurthy, the Director, Central Institute of Indian Languages, who is also the Nodal Officer for the Classical Languages, which is functioning under Central Institute of Indian Languages. Professor Amiya Kumar Patnaik, the former Vice Chancellor, Utkal University, who has he is with us and is a very encouraging one. Professor D.P. Patnaik, the founder director of Central Institute of Indian Languages, who has been associated with CAL and all its activities, not only classical Odia. His association with CIL is immense. And we have key speakers also with us. One is going to explore on epigraphy, other one is on manuscripts. And Professor Patnaik, PK Panda, the project director of Classical Odia. So and dear participants, it's a very warm welcome and a good morning. You know well that once the government of India declared any languages as a classical languages, the responsibility is entrusted with Central Institute of Indian Languages to cater these languages and promote and document and disseminate these classical languages under one of its schemes, that is Center of Excellence for Classical Languages. At present, we have 4 classical languages which is functioning under Central Institute of Indian Languages. And Odia has the pride because this is the first Indo-Aryan family of languages which has been recognized by the government of India as the classical language. though you have enough documents and supportive uh, claim that these languages are classical languages, but so many unravel materials which can strengthen, which can brought before the common man the classicality of languages is one of the things is going back to the antiquity of any classical languages. Here we have the Center of Excellence Studies for Classical Odia. It has taken only the two prime areas. That is, one is manuscriptology, the another one is
अभी अच्छा
Professor Fernandez, you have to unmute yourself. You have muted yourself.
से म्यूट है जाई चंदी सुनते हो?
from the beginning, Professor. Can I?
No, please.
Yes, sir. Now it is.
Yeah, okay.
Sir.
So all these classical language centers, which is working under classical, Central Institute of Indian Languages, they have been asked to go on this, antiquity of their classical languages. Recently, the Center for Excellent Studies in Classical Telugu also, we have conducted in broader areas. Due to time constraint and manpower, the classical Odia has restricted only with the manuscripts and epigraphy. Even the oral myths also, which talks about the migration. See, migration also, it's one of the earliest recorded information about human culture and languages. So in later stages, and I assure that Center for Excellent Studies in Classical Odia will take care of other components of an unraveling antiquity of Odia should also be taken care. Of course, I can say that, see, there is a lot of difference between you go for a copper plate or manuscripts. See, copper plates and inscription, it can record an event. It can record an event. Unless in the manuscripts, if you see that the traditional knowledge which has been transmitted from one generation to another generation, it may be pertain to the health or day-to-day activities or any kind of thing that will be recorded only in the manuscripts also. When you go into dig into the antiquity of that Odia, so many traditional knowledge system which has been transmitted from one generation to another generation in the earlier days will also be come to the limelight, and it will add more richness to the classical Odia, and its classical status will be more strengthened, and it will be taken further. So it is a very good initiative. And as our director, the nodal officer, Professor C.G. Venkateshamurthy pointed out that all possible supports will be given from the Central Institute of Indian Languages. It is a very good initiative, and the participants during this, they are also gifted to know more about these classical languages and their antiquities and how it was through the manuscripts and epigraphy. It is a wonderful initiative from Classical Language Center Odia. So it is a very warm welcome. I'm welcoming all the participants to this webinar and wishing this function every success. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Professor Fernandez. In your busy schedule, though you are in out of the Mysore, now you are Bhubaneswar, and with many responsibility. I know you have a very important meeting today. Yet you have attended this webinar and spoken about our center and other things. So I am very much thankful to you. Thank you, sir. Now I request Dr. D.P. Patnaik, Padma Shri Devi Prasanna Patnaik, the founder director of CIL. I am very fortunate that he himself offered me that he will speak for some time. So on particularly on the antiquity of language, I request him to speak for a brief briefly about this webinar and about the antiquity of Odia language particularly. Sir. Sir को unmute करंतु डॉक्टर डीपी पटनायक को Printi babu. Printi babu.
Sir. Vartaman, now I request Professor D.P. Patnaik,
Sir.
our father figure.
Sir, ଆପଣଙ୍କର unmute sir को unmute କରନ୍ତୁ. ହେଇଛି?
ଆଜ୍ଞା।
ସାରଙ୍କର ଅନମ୍ୟୁଟ ହେଇନି କି? କିଏ କରିବେ? ସାର୍ ଆପଣ ଅନମ୍ୟୁଟ କରନ୍ତୁ। ଜାଣି ପାରୁନାହାନ୍ତି ସେ।
Can you not do it at your level? Can you not do it at your level?
Please request the host to admit Professor D.P. Patnaik.
Yes.
Sir, I have done it, but he has to do it at his end, sir.
Okay.
Okay. Now he's unmuted.
Yes.
Hello.
No, sir. Kuantu, sir.
Yeah. Warm welcome to all the participants. My namaskar to all of you. Talking about sources of history, Mark Bloch says that sources are scattered around us. We should have trained eyes to pick them up. Therefore, it is more so by writing the history of language and culture. Language is the companion of human beings and is the medium of expression of thoughts, feelings, imaginations. It is through communication and sharing that social institutions like family, caste, community, linguistic groups, they are all formed. Therefore, for studying the sources of languages, one has to wade through social science disciplines, many social science disciplines, and many science disciplines also. Odia culture may probably the earliest culture for one of the earliest cultures of India. Yaddaru Pravate verse of the Rigveda has the earliest reference to Jagannatha. Culture is found from Dhauli Jauada inscriptions of Ashoka of the 4th century BC, the Hatigundha inscription of Kharmela of the 2nd century BC. They bear testimony of Odia language, music, dance, and stage. Inscriptions beginning from the 3rd to the 11th century present the history of development of language and writing. The Uradam inscription of 1051 is the first inscription written in Odia language and Odia script. In the 7th century, Tibetan Lamas took the script from Odisha and developed their own script. There is also, one should talk about Sarla Mahabharata. The date and time of which is still disputed. It has to be settled and the center should take initiative in that direction also. Now, there is attempt to prepare a single edition based on 13 manuscripts. But that is not enough. A lot of work needs to be done. What is more important is Professor Udayanarayan Sahu has brought out to the public notice that about the Java Mahabharata, the Mahabharata found in Java. It was translated into Javanese in the 9th, 10th centuries. And Gopinath Bhante has said that Sarla Mahabharata's time is 9th or 10th century. Therefore, there is a lot of interesting things to be done. There are more than 1,000 Odia manuscripts found in China. Nobody has taken any interest in that. So we have to search for Odia manuscripts outside Odisha and particularly in Southeast Asian countries. Literary resources for Odia must be searched in folk sayings, including folk tales, folk songs, riddles, and proverbs, in Osa and Vrtakathas. Early literature is always oral and sung. Early Odia life is so ingrained in music that 6 varieties of earliest prose, including Utkalika, Vrtagandhi, Churnika, were sung. Therefore, regional musical traditions must be seen as a resource. Folk dances, folk theatres like Chau, Rabanachaya, Bogartamsa provide another source of investigation. About Rabanachaya, one of the excellent researchers from Mayurbhanj has written a small book which has given sources for many of the traditions that must be looked into also. Then songs following Aksharamrita, Bhatramrita, and Dhannivrita, they were also sung. So this is another source which must be looked into by looking into the cultural tradition of Odisha. The last point that I would like to make is that there is a great need to collect, preserve, and propagate manuscripts. As I told you, there are manuscripts in China, in Japan. Professor Sahu has edited one parva of Badaparva, which was found in Japan. So, in collaboration with Japan scholars. So, manuscripts are a major area about which we have a speaker who will speak about it. Bhasa Sahitya Sanskriti Vibhag, that is language, literature and culture department. We added language, but ever since the government on language. Therefore, there is much more need for studying, for training linguists who could, because linguistics deals with both the structure as well as function of language. Therefore, in order to understand the structure of the language and function of the language, not only today, but also in the past times, one has to do this thing. Then also to understand the difference between philology and linguistics. We had a tradition of philology. Linguistics came much later, but the relationship between philology and linguistics needs training, which is much more important. Then the last thing I will say is that reconstruction. In the philological tradition, we are looking at the history in one way, but the reconstruction provides us an opportunity to look at the past of the language in another way. Therefore, I think that the center could take initiative in this direction. Professor Panda has taken excellent steps so far. Whatever he has done is excellent, and he has no resources. He is awaiting resources from the CIF, but I hope you will get them soon and you will start his work. He will proceed further quickly. Namaskar to all of you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. I am ever grateful to you. And without Dr. Patnaik, we have no existence. There is no existence of classical Odia or classical Odia center. And the another thing is that he is the only person in the field of linguistics who has combined both literature and language in one field. Basically, he started his career in literature. He was professor of Odia in my alma mater, Santiniketan Vishwabharati. Then he has gone to field of linguistics. And you know, without language, there is no literature. And without literature, there is no language. It is complementary to each other. So we have to take initiative in both the fields to combine the things and also to preserve and propagate the classical knowledge. Thank you, sir. Again, I extend my heartiest gratefulness to you. Now, I have the privilege to request the main speakers, the key speakers of today. I am very grateful and fortunate that I could contact Professor Subrata Acharya. He is there in Ravenshaw University. And as I know, in a contemporary time, he is the most significant scholar in the field of epigraphy and paleography. He has contributed immensely to this field of knowledge, and it is suggested by many of the scholars, my friends. Now, he agreed, and I am very grateful that he is there. Now, I request you to present your views, your lecture on the history of Odia epigraphy. Now, basically, he will speak from 11th century to 15th, 16th century. Professor Acharya.
Thank you, Professor Panda, for inviting me to this webinar to speak my mind on a very pertinent topic, that is history of Odia epigraphy. In fact, it is a good initiative taken by the Center of Excellence for Classical Language of Odia. Esteemed Professor Patnaik, the president of this webinar, Professor Venkatamurthy, Director CIIL, Professor Fernandez, our revered Padma Shri Professor D.P. Patnaik, Founder Director CIIL, Madam Mamata Mishra, and all the learned participants who are watching this webinar. Now, in fact, my contribution to classical Odia language is very minimal. I trade in a different field, that is epigraphy. And as many of the speakers today, they have pointed out, epigraphy has some bond with the language, particularly the classical text that was given to Odia language. And in that connection, I will speak a few words. It may be very brief intervention. But one thing, let me tell you in clear terms, I will not focus the epigraphs of Asokan period or post-Asokan period, more particularly of the Hatigumpa inscription of Kharavalo, because they have been overemphasized by most of the scholars. So my discussion will be post-Kharavalo, or to be more precise, of the early medieval period up to the time of the Suryavamshi Gajapatis. Now, study of inscriptional literature is essential in comprehending the origin and development of any language. In fact, inscriptional literature preceded creative literature in many standard languages. This is particularly true in Kannada and Telugu, and this is equally applicable to Oriya language. In Indian context, most of the languages used today by the people of our upper India, that is northern India, trace their origin to the Indo-Aryan language group. As linguists, most of you are acquainted with this or aware of this. The so-called Middle Indo-Aryan or MIA phase that spanned over more than 1,500 years, roughly from 600 BC to 1000 AD, witnessed the popularity of Prakrit as both a written and spoken medium. The earliest stratum of inscriptional literature belonged to the Mauryan and post-Mauryan period, and it is in Prakrit. It is written in Prakrit. Monks, monarchs, and merchants were equally responsible for the spread and dissemination of this language in a greater part of India. In due course of time, Prakrit had attained greater ramification and slowly being recognized by regional appellations. Thus, we have Magadhi, Ardhamagadhi, Suraseni, Maharashtri, Prakrit as standard mediums and with definite identities, maybe regional identities. Linguists add to this another subgroup, that is Odro Magadhi, spoken in ancient Orisha or ancient Odro and Kalinga. It is also called as Odro Prakrit, and it is now gaining currency among the linguists. It is now acknowledged as the parent of modern Oriya language. From the 4th century onwards, the political integration of Odisha was no longer maintained. It was rather parceled into a number of smaller independent sub-regional kingdoms. With the influence of Pan-Indian traditions, Sanskrit was used as the common medium in the court circles. Official charters were written in Sanskrit language, and the Brahminical culture began to spearhead. These developments hindered the progress of Odro Prakrit, and excepting a few pockets, the Brahminical religion put at bay the popularity of Buddhist and Jaina sectarian groups and establishments, because it was the time when the Brahminical religion was gaining momentum and it marginalized the two other religions, that is Buddhist and Jainism, Buddhism and Jainism. There is no denying the fact that from the 4th to the 10th century, Odro Prakrit was admittedly the spoken language of the common man. It was the spoken language of the common man, although the inscriptional literature was mainly in Sanskrit language, because it was mostly popular among the rulers and their courts. Although it was marginalized, yet the 600 years of insulation was a long span of formative stage in the life of this dialect. Specimens of this dialect are scanty and marginal. There are only 1 or 2 epigraphs which have been regularly quoted by historians, epigraphists, and linguists as a stage of development of this dialect. Let me tell you 1 or 2 examples. The one is the Nivina copperplate grant of the Saladova king Dharmaraj II, and it is a case in point because you know that this inscription belonged to early 8th century AD. The inscription is written in ornate Sanskrit, but in the gift portion of the grant, there are a few lines which are unmistakably engraved in archaic Oriya or Proto-Oriya language. One can find many Oriya words or derivatives like Dishahi, Konohi, Ada Papadi, Banarai. Banarai is for Sanskrit Banaraji, Uttara, Dakshina, Puba, Bankasila, Pavadishila, Parvatashila or Pavadishila, Bagho Guha. Bagho Guha is Vyagra Gumpa, that is in Sanskrit, Vyagra Gumpa, and the Oriya rendering is Bagho Guha, and Gadi. Gadi means Garta, and it is Gadi is the derivation, Oriya derivation of the Sanskrit Garta. These words are closely akin to the archaic Oriya. Again, we have another inscription, that is the Parlakhemdi copperplate grant of Vajrahasta, and this inscription is assigned to the 10th century AD, and there is a postscript which has no connection with the main charter, and it reads Om Rajirani Odrobisai Bidagadha Telosi Gamo Indo Nandanodaya Tasto Sahasadina Homandi Melantadina, which has been amended by S.N. Rajguru. S.N. Rajguru has re-edited this inscription, and he has very categorically pointed out this passage belonged to early Odia, and he has made a rendering of this or the Sanskrit rendering of this passage, Odia passage, and according to him, Om Raja Ragni Udra Vishayi Vidagdha Tulasi Grama Indra Nandanodayo Ashtasrahi Varsha Homandi Melana Divasa. The two records cited above demonstrate the cognizable trend of archaic Oriya vernacular in the 8th and 10th century, and they can be reckoned as significant pointers in the process of the so-called dialect continuum. In addition to this, it may be recalled here that there are a large number of Sanskrit words in the royal charters which are written after the fashion of Oriya pronunciation. However, from the 11th century onwards, there was a perceptible change in the development of this vernacular. Odia distinctly emerged as a separate and independent language. Inscriptions are written exclusively in this language, but Odia script was still taking some more time to get perfected and standardized. And as many of you know, that Urujam inscription of Anantavarman is popularly believed to be dated in Saka 973 or 1051 AD. It is written in Sanskrit and Oriya language, and the first 8 lines are in Sanskrit, while the rest of the inscription is in Oriya language of the 11th century. For the first time, we come across the Oriya verbs like Karila, Thila, Dhila in this record. Besides, there is also a few Dravidian words intermixed with this text. The words like Oku and Manichonku, it's influence, but the inscription is written in Nagari as used in the records of the Gangas of Kalinga. The inscription is labeled as the earliest Oriya inscription discovered so far, and it has been acknowledged by most of the critics, editors, linguists, historians of Oriya inscriptions and Oriya language. There is another inscription of the same century which has been noticed from Gandiveda in Baleswar district of Odisha, and it is a short inscription of 2 lines. It reads, Devakai Bhagati Karaya Achanti Bho Kumara Sena. Some scholars have gone to the extent of taking the above passage as Oriya versification, having respect for meters, but we are not on a surer ground to subscribe to this assumption. Both these inscriptions can be grouped under the Old Oriya period, roughly stretching from 11th to 15th century AD. The Bhubaneswar bilingual inscription of the time of Narasimhadeva I. Narasimhadeva ruled from 1238 to 1264 AD, and it is written in Oriya and Tamil languages. It is a very fascinating inscription. It is a bilingual inscription. It is written in both Oriya and Tamil languages. Most of the scholars will be astonished to see how Tamil language was used in this part of the country. According to the contents of the inscription, King Narasimhadeva first granted land to a Saivite monastery at Bhubaneswar for feeding of the Saiva saints visiting Bhubaneswar from the countries like Chodo, Kanchi and Pandya in south. This is the Tamil-speaking area of South India. As the grant was made to Saiva ascetics of the Tamil-speaking area, the grant is recorded in Tamil for their information, and the Oriya portion is composed more in details, was meant for the people of the locality. The 3 short inscriptions, Oriya inscriptions in Sikhareswara temple at Kapilas in Denkanal district belong to the time of Narasimhadeva I. While inscription number 1 and 3 are in Oriya language, the inscription number 2 is in corrupt Sanskrit, but all the records are written in Proto-Oriya script. The Khambeswari temple inscription is yet another inscription written in Oriya language, and it belonged to the time of Bhanudeva I. And Bhanudeva I was a successor of Narasimhadeva I, and he ruled from 1264 to 1280 AD, and he was a successor of Narasimhadeva I, as I told you. The Ganga governor stationed in Sonpur issued this proclamation in Oriya. the development of Oriya prose by 13th century can be understood from the following line of the inscription. There is a line, the last line of the inscription reads like this. Eha je haroi haraoi tahara kopale shivotala brahmatala vishnutala padi padai vishnutala padai. This is the last line of the inscription, and from here, from this line written in Oriya language, you can very well imagine the development of Oriya prose by the 13th century AD. This is another stage in the development of the language, Oriya language. There are several inscriptions belonging to 13th and 14th century written in Oriya language, which are engraved in the temples of Mukhalingam, Sri Kurmam, and Sri Simanchalam, and all are in northern part of Andhra Pradesh. They record endowments to the temples by officers, either for offering of food to the deity, or for erecting and maintaining mandapas for the deities, or for burning undying lamps in temples. But ironically, most of them are written in Telugu script, but Oriya language. The earliest Oriya inscription written in Oriya language and script in the southern part of Ganga territory was found in the Patteswara. It is a dated inscription. It is dated in Kali Yuga era 4477, equivalent to 1376 AD of the time of Bhanudeva III. And Bhanudeva III ruled from 1352 to 1378 AD. The inscription is now badly mutilated. And I had an occasion to visit the temple and examine the inscription, but it is very difficult now to read anything from this inscription. Another stage in the development of the Oriya language in the inscription, and it is interesting to note that Ganga king Narasimhadeva IV, who ruled from 1378 to 1405 AD, made sincere efforts in issuing royal proclamations in mixed Sanskrit and Oriya languages. The two official charters like Trimali and Sankaranand Math, plates of the king, dated respectively in 1394 AD and 1395 AD, contain portions in Oriya language. These are all Sanskrit inscriptions or inscriptions written in Sanskrit language, but there is a portion which is written in Oriya language. And these two inscriptions are in the later part of 14th century. And there are a few more inscriptions, Oriya inscriptions belonging to this ruler. One important inscription of this time is engraved in Sri Kurmam temple, and it is dated in 1403 AD. This inscription is written in Oriya language, but in Nagari script, not in Oriya script. It recorded the gift of 100 goats to the temple by a Kalinga merchant named Rishidasa for the upkeep of an undying lamp. After Narasimhadeva IV, Bhanudeva IV came to the throne of the Gangas and ruled from 1405 to 1435 AD, and not a single Oriya inscription belonging to his time has been discovered so far. He has not issued a single Oriya inscription. And he was the last ruler of the family, and after him, the Suryavamshi Gajapatis came to power. And as you know, that Kapilendra Deva was the first ruler of this dynasty, Suryavamshi Gajapati dynasty, and there was a revolution against imperial Ganga rulers, and he besieged the throne, defeated the Ganga rulers, and began to rule as a Gajapati king from 1435 onwards. And it was during this time the Suryavamshi Gajapatis made significant contribution in the evolution of this Oriya language. They used the Oriya language in their inscriptions, and this time also coincided with the emergence of Sarala Das, the author of Mahabharata, and he wrote the entire Mahabharata in Oriya language. I should not take much more time. I should stop here. Thank you again, once again, for inviting me to speak to you on the evolution or the history of Oriya inscriptions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Professor Acharya. That your speech is very valuable, and really we are enriched by your speech on the history of Oriya epigraphy, which is a very difficult and really this area. Now we seldom find the scholars in Odisha who are working on the field of epigraphy. This epigraphy and paleography, you are a profound scholar and you have accepted my invitation. Really, I am very grateful to you. And this is a very only one part of his speech he could deliver on the epigraphy during the period of 11th to 15th century. But whole of the history of Odia epigraphy from 3rd century before Christ to 15th, 16th century till 15th, 16th century AD, we should ponder over the whole of the things, and more of the historians and epigraphists will be requested to enlighten us and to contribute on this particular area, because you know our ancient scholars like Dinesh Chandra Sarkar, I had a very, really I am very fortunate and I could meet him in Shantiniketan when he was a visiting professor. I invited him to speak on the epigraphy as the record of literature. I remember today. And only our hope is Professor Subrata Acharya. I am very grateful and thankful to you, sir. Thank you. Now I have the privilege to invite Dr. Madam Mamata Mishra. You know, he's a very keen scholar on particularly in the field of manuscript. She was associated with the great manuscriptologist Nilamani Mishra in our state, Odisha State Museum. Then after he left Odisha, she became member of the associated with a historical great work for editing the that 25 volumes of a great work in Chennai. Now she is the secretary of Professor K.V. Sharma Foundation, and also doing research in the field of manuscript and editing. So I have requested him, and I am very thankful and maybe sir is also attending our webinar, and so I have requested him, sir, please inspire madam to speak on this topic. So sir, namaskar. So now it is my privilege to invite madam to present her speech, and she will also perhaps present the the preparation through ICT. Madam.
Namaskar to all of you, all my elders here. Thank you so much for inviting me. And I don't know how much I will be able to give justification to my this task what you have given to me. But I'll put some lights definitely, and kindle some interest in you all to work for manuscripts, because this is exactly this. Now it's going away, and we cannot preserve it unless we are very careful about it. Thank you. Sir, it's okay, sir?
Yes.
So this is exactly the task what I have been given, and this is the work that Heritage of Odia manuscripts. So once you have given me Heritage of Odia manuscripts, so that my field has become little more elaborate. If it would be Odia language alone, it would be little difficult, because we do not have many Odia, this Sanskrit text and Odia text both are in the land, are written in Odia script alone. So now this, because the Odia, if you have, as you have told, Odia, heritage of Odia manuscripts, so I'll cover little bit of Sanskrit and little bit of Odia manuscripts here. So the presentation is divided into 4 parts. The manuscripts of Odisha survey report, but survey report will be, I'll judge what our directors are told about Jailong. Jailong I'll discuss a little. Then manuscript survey in India, particularly peculiarity of Odia manuscripts and future of the manuscripts of Odisha. See, this is Reverend J. Long, the James Long, exactly surveyed for 10 days the areas like Puri, Kotak and nearby and prepared a survey report on the manuscripts of Odisha. And this is the first time exactly officially the manuscripts of Odisha was surveyed. Here he has covered the cultural and literal practice of the land. The article has been published in the Journal of Asiatic Society number 3, pages 189 to 98. Name of the article is Notes and Queries Suggested by a Visit to Orissa in January 1859. At the outset, referring to the condition of Orissa, he starts with Orissa. Now and formally, he says Orissa is so cut off from the other parts of India through the want of easy and cheap communication that little is known about it. Though whether we consider its famous temple, the stronghold of Hinduism, or its ancient history when Buddhism was in accident, there is very much to interest the philanthropist and antiquarian. He again says, there is a cry raised now that investigation into past condition of India are of no practical use, and that Indian experience is of no value. But the fact is overlooked that the past is the mother of future. Here exactly you can very well say that how, I mean, there was suppression of the things that our cultural or literary heritage should not come out. But anyway, how he is telling, he is exactly, when you read that article, you feel that he is something, he is crying out of it. If Kalhana's Rajatarangini of Kashmir has come out, so why not a text of Odisha has come out? So in his, here he has mentioned the Sanskrit text and Odia text. These are the texts he has mentioned of it. The Utkala Khanda of Skanda Purana, Kshetra Mahatmya, Kapila Samhita, Itihas Samuchaya, Ekamra Purana, Shiva Purana, Sarva Darshana Sangra. But here the text he says of Shankaracharya. Sarva Darshana Sangra was not written by Shankaracharya. But Odia text also he has written Madala Vanji, Gajapati Vansabali. And this is a very peculiar manuscript. Raja Charita, Kanchi Kavari, Jagamohana Ramayana. Here he has not mentioned of the authors. Then he has written the Shankaracharya Sambandhiya Pustaka. This is Sankara Katha, Sankara Charita, Kerala Utpatti. Maybe this is Kerala Utpatti because he was born in Kerala, something like that. But we have many manuscripts in mathematics that is called as Kerala, Kerala Vayalisa, all these things. Maybe this Kerala Utpatti belongs to a mathematical manuscript and it has been misunderstood by J. Long. Then Chaitanya Sampradaya Sambandhita Pustaka, that Chaitanya Chandrodaya, Chaitanya Bhagavata, Chaitanya Charita. Then the Odia text he has written that Rasa Kallolo, Vaidehi Savilasa, Lavanyavati, Mukunda Mala, Jarati Bhakti. Actually, as it is, the Jarati Bhakti is written there. I just guess that it might be the Dadhyata Bhakti Rasamruta of Ramadasa because it was a very popular text. It is still now, it is very popular text. Then the Vaishnava works is Rasa Manjani and Rasa Panchaka. And he says, and several Mahatmyas or temple legends and translations of Bhagavad Gita also were found to J. See what J. Long have just copied from his article itself. He is telling, and when we are, now it is why I am telling sacred. And their feelings were there very much. See, it's the Romanizing in Odisha. All the Sanskrit manuscripts used in Odisha are written in the Uriya and not in Nagari character, though the latter is the sacred character of India and hence called Devanagari or divine character. But the Brahmanas will not accept an universal character. Nationality prevails over theory. And yet there are men who dream of abolishing all the Indian alphabets and substituting the English alphabet for them. You can exactly very well feel the feelings behind him, how he was feeling when he surveyed the manuscripts of Odisha. It was a matter of 10 days. After J. Long, another scholar who brought to the notice of the scholars was Sir William Wilson Hunter. And in his book, Orissa, popularly known as Hunter's Orissa, what we people, all the scholars from Orissa, they will say Hunter's Orissa. This he has given in appendix, exactly, this details of the manuscript. It is noted at the beginning that the following are based upon manuscripts, vernacular and English, chiefly supplied by T. Ravenshaw commissions of Orissa. William Hunter was interested, and the report was submitted to him mostly by Ravenshaw. But John Beams was an instrumental to collect this manuscript while he was the collector of Balasore. In this list, these lists have been listed according to the authors, and authors have been listed alphabetical, as English alphabetical order. So 107 authors have been listed, and a list of 47 books where we do not, anonymous, there is no author is available for these 47 texts, but the names of these books have been noted there. The name of the authors are arranged as per the English alphabetical order. And he has added an approximate date to the authors. Just a sample. Balarama Dasa, 300 years before. 23 texts are listed. Achyutananda Dasa, 100 years before. You can think how much justification they were giving the thing to our texts. Achyutananda Dasa, 100 years before. And 3 texts only were listed. Maybe whatever was available to them. When we were surveying the alphabetical list of authors in Odisha State Museum, we have documented around 80 texts of Achyutananda Dasa. The oldest authors in his list was 600 years old, Markanda Dasa and his work Kesava Koili and Jnana Udaya Koili, Vardhamana Mahapatra, this is Vardhamana Karika and Durgotsava Chandrika, these are Sanskrit texts, and Bhagavana Kaviraja, the Gundicha Champu, this is also a Sanskrit text. As for him, the 600 years is the oldest text of Odisha, of the land. Then the next scholar was Manmohan Chakravarti. In his 2 articles, he has given hints on our Odishan text in 4 parts: language and alphabet, Sanskrit literature of Odisha, Odia songs and religious poems, and the latter Odia poems. Based on these 4 parts, he has given these things in 2 articles and given these references. As for Manmohan Chakravarti, the oldest manuscript was written in 1736. Maybe as per his findings. Among these 3 lists, the finding of J. Long seems to be very impartial. I mean, you can ask me why you feel like that. When you read the articles on the Manmohan Chakravarti and other articles, that you feel like little biased. Whereas J. Long exactly feels he has got into our manuscripts, he has got into our society. There is and he has presented it. Even there is a sociological study. If you read that article, there is some society, how the Brahmins were doing, how the Sudras also knew the Sanskrit and everything. Many things he has noted there. That is why I say it is very impartial. But all the above list do not mention the finding place of these manuscripts. That is the sad part of it. If now we will understand where is the manuscript available, we may not get it or where to search it. Nativity of the authors of the availability to them, they have not mentioned it. But from the detailed study and some elaborate extracts from M.M. Chakravarti's, that's Manmohan Chakravarti's report, it is clearly understood that he was having the text with him. So maybe we can think that these texts are preserved in the Asiatic Society, Bengal. Manuscript Survey of India. Actually, that was a very big work, and the details I am just writing here. But all over India, how the manuscript survey was started, I am not going to mention it because we are only concentrating on Odisha. In 1868, the government of India initiated long-ranging steps in the direction of documenting the manuscripts. A letter dated by 10th May 1868 was written by Pandit Radhakrishna of Lahore to the Governor General of India. This correspondence this correspondence steered by the letters has been, and whatever many things happened and it was approved, then the government general, Governor General appointed many scholars. That all detailed studies are there. Governor General of India, the correspondence steered by the letter has been reproduced by A.U. Go in his book Papers Relating to the Collection and Preservation of the Records of Ancient Sanskrit Literature, Calcutta, 1878. On 3rd November, just think how prompt activity was there. See, 10th May, the letter was written, and 3rd November 1868, the Governor General approved the proposal. To take up the work seriously, the scholars engaged. Most of them are European scholars. So for Orissa is concerned, Colin Mackenzie, what he told exactly, and C.P. Brown were taking care of southern part of Orissa, and Rajendra Lal Mitra and Haraprasad Shastri were taking the northern part of Orissa. They were submitting their survey reports at times, and when they were able to acquire the manuscript, they were collecting and preparing a copy it for the use of others. Why I am telling this thing? In Government Oriental Manuscript Library, Chennai, and Theosophical Society, Madras, Adyar, there we have some Odia manuscripts in Odia script, and there are some manuscripts copied from mostly the southern part of Orissa, and it is copied, and with a certificate it has been preserved in Government Oriental Manuscript Libraries. They are nicely writing the Paralakhimandi area or something. All these manuscripts have been copied, and most of the manuscripts are in Devanagari script and mostly Sanskrit texts. And you will be really surprised to know there are some manuscripts are available to them what we do not have. Even after the inception of Odisha State Museum and all, we do not have some texts. Some texts are very unique and only it is found in Government Oriental Manuscript Library, Chennai. Now I am telling this thing. Odia manuscripts can be divided in two parts. Sanskrit text written in Odia script, Odia text written in Odia script. Because we did not have other scripts at all. We were only having palm leaf and Odia manuscripts. Oh, palm leaf, it was exactly because this availability, the plenty availability of it. It was really, the Odia scholars were very much efficient to write on palm leaves. And then the 3 layers of palm leaf, it was easy to write the script in both the sides. The manuscripts are mostly found in, where exactly we get our Odisha manuscripts. The traditional families, the temples, the monasteries and mosques, old royal palaces, scholarly institutions, and personally, like you or me, personal houses of the researchers. These are there where keeping the manuscripts. I am just giving one slide only Orissa State Museum, because Orissa State Museum is proud of possessing so many manuscripts. It's not exactly 50,000, it's around 30,000 manuscripts, but you have not got so much of descriptive catalog on it. And so much of work yet we have to do. It was established in 1936 in Kanika Library, Revansa College. Then it went to Mohammedan College because the Mohammedan College was not used. It was unused place, so the museums shifted there. Most of the collection of museum is enriched by B.N. Rai of Puri. B.N. Rai of Puri collected so many things. He, first of all, his references, his collections were mostly occupying the museum. Then 1956 is the present place. In other states of Odisha, Manuscript Library is general. All other states, the Manuscript Library is generally attached to the Oriental Research Institute or to a university. But probably this is the only museum which has a manuscript library. The manuscript section of Odisha State Museum was fully designed by the great historian of our land, Kedarnath Mahapatra. The classification of the subjects, the copying of the manuscripts with the help of trained pandits, the preparation of subject-wide catalogs, etc., everything it was designed by him. After him, Pandit Nilamani Mishra became a synonym of a Pothi. We say him Pothi Mani. and related to anything on manuscriptology. He started to catalog he did only one Sanskrit manuscripts, that is volume 7. It is the continuation of volume 1, the Dharmasastra manuscripts produced by Kedarnath Mahapatra. It's only Sanskrit catalog he did. Then he did the catalog of descriptive and alphabetical, both the catalog of Odia manuscript. He concentrated onto Odia manuscripts more. Here is, I'm saying this Odia, now there is no Sanskrit and no Odia. I'm just telling Odia means it's only referred to the script Odia, not the language. See, these manuscripts of Odisha are indexed and with the abbreviation as per the subject numbering 27. We do not know what was his mind, how he was organized this thing, how he has made it. But till now, even when I have my own foundation here, and we are doing this famous new catagoram, what I was doing. Prasant Panda could not tell the project because it is a new catagoram. It is a documentation of Sanskrit text. So that is why, because he doesn't know, he is not belonging to Sanskrit, so he could not remember this thing. It is exactly the new catagoram where I was working as an associate editor for around 25 volumes, and 2 volumes I was editor also. So these, even the new catagoram when I was working, even the foundation when I was doing, all this is the Kedarnath Gaveshana, Kedarnath Mahapatra's classification helps me till now how to arrange the things. This is how nicely he has divisioned the manuscripts of us. Apart from the text like Mahabharata, I am telling now, I am coming to the exactly Oriya text. This, apart from the text like Mahabharata, Ramayana, Kavyas, Puranas, the other genres of Oriya literature like Chaupadi, this Chautisa, Boli, Vratakathas, Pala, Poi, etc. enrich the Oriya literature. Very few of these literatures have seen the light of the day. This Chautisa, this Boli, this Chautisa exactly Otuksha, what it has been written. And I must say that only in Sanskrit we have one Akshara Malika Stotra 1 or 2. It's not very popular, but this is the very peculiar genre in our Odia literature, starting from Kautuksha. And this Boli Sahitya, this Vratakathas, this Palas, this poets, all these exactly exhibit the very rich heritage of our Oriya language. Here I am just coming to Oriya language. And many, one text, I do not know whether Vasanta sir would be knowing, one PhD was done on the Chautisas found in Odisha State Museum, but Boli, Vratakathas are yet to be done. Most of the works have not yet been done. Most researchers have not been. Boli was published. Some of the Boli literatures were published, but the social aspect behind it is not actually done. Then in October, I'm telling, now it was exactly the people, these manuscripts were exactly confined to the scholar and the scholarly family where it was preserved. But 1959, there was one All India Oriental Conference in Bhubaneswar in OUAT. An exhibition of family manuscripts was organized. On behalf of Odisha State Museum, Kedarnath Mahapatra displayed some of the manuscripts. And this is the first time the manuscript was displayed to the world of scholars, and they could see what is the manuscripts of Odisha is. So some along with manuscripts, the inscriptions, coins, and some of the printed books also were displayed. These among manuscripts, 13 Sanskrit and 1 some Odia manuscripts, 24 illustrated manuscripts, 1 paper manuscript like Gopal Lila illustration. Apart from museum, Sadasiva Ratha Sarma, Vansidhar Mahanti, Odisha Sahitya Academy, also they also kept their things in that exhibition. This proceeding is published in 1962 from Vandar for Oriental Research Institute, Pune. This is exactly the writings. I have another slide also. This is numerics of Oriya manuscripts. Our numeric is totally different from the present numeric what we are using. This is the thing. This is the 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 5, 5. This is the both way, and 6, 7, 8, 9. 0 anyway, all over India, everywhere 0 is same, round. These are the scripts, the numeric used in Odishan manuscripts, and these are the letters. There are very peculiar letters. This O, E, and U. Please look into it. Please feel how our people were writing on the palm leaves with a stylus, and what was the cause behind it, why they were writing the dhru this way, why there is a, when we are writing akta, why there is a two dui matra, why when andha there is a ulta dui, why people are asking now, the modern people are asking many such questions, but why we will write cha with cha, why there should be a dot, why chalk will below the cha there should be a dot, but there were, everything was done with a purpose. There was some justification behind it. We cannot ask all such questions now at this present stage, holding a mobile or holding a pen and paper in our hand. We have to feel their writing, why they wrote all these things. See, this is do, nu. Please see, look into it. These are the Odia alphabets. The and the dwa, dya, va, phala, yo, phala. It is almost the same. See, sir, this is the vya, and this is twa. This is ta, va, phala, and ta, vya, ya, phala. This is see, this is ya. This is twa. And now it is not used. Of course, it is not used, but we are using, but it was used. Okay, sir. Then the oldest manuscript of written manuscript preserved in Odisha State Museum is Abhinava Gita Govinda, Sanskrit works of Odia text of Kavichandra Rai Dibakara Misra, but ascribed to his patron Pajapati Purushottama Deva. This was copied in 1493-94 CE. This number is Odisha State Museum EXT exhibit in 336. This is the first page, one page. This is the handwriting exactly of our first manuscript. I am telling first handwritten manuscript. It is the dated manuscript. This is the one page of Abhinava Gita Govinda. This is exactly why it is nothing related to heritage of manuscript, but the trend of manuscript writing. And we say it is colophon. How we know the text ends here or the chapter ends here? These are the marks. What we say pushpika, because it designs like a pushpa. So these are, and that's what I am just getting it. This type of so many designs we get as for the chapter ending indication. These are the things. This is of course one page of and this has been repaired by intact. One that the right side it was broken. It has been repaired. This is one another also. This is a Gita Govinda manuscript with two commentaries in it. The commentaries are also written in the middle. Only the text will be there, and both the sides, the marginal portion, the text, the commentaries are written. It's very difficult to write, and this script also comparatively will be smaller. The text, the commentary, commentator's script, and the author, the original script, the text script will be comparatively smaller size. And these are because two commentaries are there, and different way it has been started. How many the colophonic lines? It's a illustrated manuscript, of course. How many colophonic marks are there? This is the way in our houses and all the manuscripts have been preserved. And this is I must say here, this New Catalyst Categorum volume 6. This New Catalyst Categorum, I must say one or two lines. This is a documentation of Sanskrit manuscripts all over the world and available in the world. So these are the manuscript. Most of things are not published. Maybe 10, 20, 12% will be published. And this is all to how the documentation has covered in 42 volumes. Published by the University of Madras. It's a great project. It was taken by University of Madras. So this is what I am telling. We all say that Gita Govinda is a text belonging to Odisha. The New Catalyst Categorum volume 6 documents the Gita Govinda text. It was in 1971. Why I am saying this thing, even though Gita Govinda was written in Odia, in this Gita Govinda entries, we have number of manuscripts all over the world. A number of manuscripts it has been entered 1281. But from Odisha, there are only 2 manuscripts have been recorded here. Only 2. Number of commentaries available 72 as per the New Catalyst Categorum concerns. And there are even some commentaries numbering around 25 where we do not have proper classification. I mean, there is no author name, when it was composed, nothing is there. But even now, 2-3 years before what the Gita Govinda was published in Odisha State Museum, we have 6-7 commentaries. And here only in 2 places we have the Odisha references, not other. So it is so much of our responsibility that how to project ourselves. If the new, NMM says that Odisha has the largest collection of manuscripts, but what is the point of saying all these things? See, now I am coming to Bhagavata Tungi. Why? Because Bhagavata Tungi is the only place where the manuscript discussions were very much. The Bhagavata Tungi, where the manuscripts are worshipped as Goswami or Gosai, but that is not the only place for worship, also a place for social, cultural, and educational practices. But whatever it might be the cause or result, it is true that that was a place which could be instrumental to copy and recopy the manuscripts. And this Bhagavata Tungi, because discussions were there, people wanted to keep their manuscript, their copies also with them, so they were copying and recopying it. The contribution of Odisha to technical literature. We are always thinking that our Panchasaka and all this Ramayana, Mahabharata, and then Panchasaka, then at least we are coming to the Riti literature of Upendra Bhanja and all. But whether we have discussed any time that Odia has anything they have contributed to their technical literature. So these are the texts. These are all we have in Odia. Texts and Dharma Shastra, Purana, Ayurveda, Jyotisha, lexicon, Dharma, Darsana, music, and grammar. Everything have been either it will be there in Odia, in Odia script, of course, in a Sanskrit text, and then translated into Odia prose and poetry. There are all such texts are there. So I'm telling on 1 or 2 references from this agriculture text. One is Krishi Parasara. This Krishi Parasara text is very popular. It has been published 2, 3, 4 times now. But from Orissa, it has not been published. It's a long back. It was published in somewhere from Cuttack. Then this Varsha Mangala, this Krishi Parasara has been poetically translated by Mukunda, and he has given the name as Varsha Mangala. Very nice composition it is. It is all our work to bring into life. And there are around, in Odisha State Museum itself of Krishi Parasara, we have around 27 manuscripts. What I am telling 20 years before the references, now I am not able to access those things. So then the war literature Harihara Chaturanga by Godabara Misra. This was a war literature divided into 8 parts. This is that on Haswa, on that's Aswa, on Hasti, on Padatika. All these have been described. And this manuscript was copied by the Government of Oriental Manuscript Library, Chennai, in somewhere in the 20th century beginning, and they have published this text in based on single manuscript. Whereas in Odisha we have another 4 or 5 manuscripts. In a museum we have another 4 or 5 manuscripts with so much of extra readings. Then mathematics and astronomy, Bhaswati, Siddhanta Shiromani. And then there's other mathematical text where you get measurements of land, measurements of amount, like Artha, Dhana, the length and the breadth, the measurement of like time, like Skyana, Muhurta, Nimesa, all these things have been there in our G section, Ganita section. So many nicely, it has been all described in the Odia poetry format, in with Chanda style, very nicely. Then Vastu Shastra, Vauri Maharana, and all other texts also under Vastu Shastra, the house construction and all these things are there in Odia. Then the Ayurveda, this Madhava Nidana, Pathya Pathya Vinishchaya are there. And these texts are belonging to Orissa. And these texts have been written and translated into Odia prose and Odia poetry by our scholars. And many Griha Vaidyas, what it has been given as like Kedarnath Mahapatra or Pandit Nilamani Misra, they have given the name as Ayurveda or Vaidya Shastra, and these things are there mostly in Odia. This Tantra literature also. Apart from the specific text, the Guni specific text like Bhuvaneshwari Chandrika, all these things, we have other texts also, Guni Garidi manuscript, which speak of the folk literature of the last 2 centuries. We have to work on it. Vrata Kathas. Then illustrated manuscript. The illustrated manuscripts of Odisha speak volumes. The literary interest, the expertise in fine arts, the aesthetic taste of the people of the land. So many things we have. This is exactly a manuscript on Vaidehisa Vilasa. This text is preserved in Pondicherry, French Institute Pondicherry. And this is the illustrations have been done this way. Sometimes exactly the illustration will be done and one page writings will be there, the other page will be the illustration, or sometimes the half will be writing and the corresponding illustration will be at the other half. This is the way the illustrations have been done. This is a little bit of color is there. These are the whole bordering line of illustrations. I just took some of the portion from this Vaidehisa Vilasa alone. How nice designs have been made. So then the numbering system. How the manuscripts were numbered. The numbering system found in Odishan manuscript is a Bhuta Sankhya system. I'll just explain in the next slide. That's Bhuta Sankhya system. Now, when the manuscript was copied or written, those are the things it has exactly through Bhuta Sankhya system more. And though many types of datings are available in all over India, Odishan manuscript from the epigraphic periods, but in manuscript the Kalingabda from epigraphic period it is continuing, which is expressed as Sambat. That means plus 593 is our common era. So it's very bold. Others are Vikram Sambat. Vikram Sambat it's minus 57 and Sakabda is minus. Suppose it is written 1645 Vikram Sambat. So you have to minus it 57, then go to common era. Of 1657 is Shakabda, we have to add 78 to get the common era. These are the popular numbering system found in our Odisha manuscripts. So this is, I'm just writing one. What is Bhuta Sankhya? Graha Sayaka Baji Indu Sankhya Samvatsare Gate. Gadadharana, this is a colophonic line of one Gita Govinda manuscript. So Gadadharana Likhita Satikan Traya Pustakam. So Graha is a Navagraha, Sayaka Pancha Sayaka, it is 5, and Baji is Aswa, 7 horses of sun. I mean, there are all significance of it. Then Indu is Chandra, it is 1. So this is exactly 9571. And when we change into Ankana and Vamatogati, it has to be changed. Then it becomes 1759. Then because it is Samvatsara, we have to minus 57. Then this time comes 1702. So it is why I am particularly writing 1 or 2. This is Gadadharana Likhita Satikan Traya Pustakam. Here it is Likhita, may be copied. And then the next is Sakabde Shodasasate Chatusashta Dikegate. Every time it is not Bhuta Sankhya, the other way it is there. Sakabde Shodasasate Chatusashta Dikegate Grathita Lakshmanena Asau Tika Sri Purushottame. So this is Chatusashti Adhika Shodasa. So 1664 plus 78. This is Grathita. So it was composed. This is the thing. And then another Bhuta Sankhya I'm just giving. Sake Adri Rama Udadi Bhu Pramane. Ramo Dadi Adri. This Adri 7. Rama 3 Rama. Balarama, Parsurama, Rama, Sri Rama. And Udadi again Saptasindhu. Then Bhu is 1. So this is the way this is Sakabda. And when we add it plus 78, it has to have the common era. See the word Lekhana or Likhana. I think there it was Likhita. But sometimes the scribe writes Likhitam Maya and sometimes the author also writes Likhitam Maya. So we have to find out whether it is author or scribe. Mostly we have authors because Bhagavata Likhitam it is there. But Bhagavata Likhitam means Raghunathasa's writing we do not have. No? It is definitely scribe, the another person who has copied it. The handwritings of the text and post-colophonic remarks mostly vary. The writings of the manuscript will be very nice, but when the scribe writes the post-colophonic, it changes. We do not know why it changes. This is exactly, and this another way of Odia manuscripts writing. Divya Singha Deva Maharajanka Samasta Ekoisyanka Vaisakha Krishna Navami Rabibare Bela Praharaka Samayare Lekha Sampurna Hela. E Poti Palasara Grama Rahani Telingi Telli Fakira Patrankara. This is the way we have many colophonic lines of our Odia manuscripts. So here exactly from the on based of this many, because these Raja's names were there, and we know that is another order when we are going to go to Ekavinsati Anka. But then there is no 1, there is only 6, then there is no 10, there is no 16. All these things are there. Exactly how the Anka we count. So this Divya Singha Deva, and based on these, when Kedarnath Mahapatra was writing Kuruta Itihasa, these colophonic verses also, wordings also was very instrumental for it. So this is the way most of the Odia manuscripts we get the colophonic line, and here it is exactly Lekha Sampurna Hela, in the sense it is definitely the copy work Sampurna. It is completed. I am telling exactly in 18th century itself, the land of Utkala could think of a critical edition. Maybe all our scholars present here would be knowing all these things, but it would not have occurred to them. I just tell you, the popularity of Bhagavata of Jagannatha Dasa was so high that in every village, in every Brahmin house, in every Bhagavata Tungi, the copies of Bhagavata, either all these kandas or a portion were available. During the course of copying and recopying, the text became corrupt. In the north part of Odisha, 24 Pragana, that who is a 24 Pragana, now in West Bengal, a queen Gundicha Devi engaged a Brahmin named Janaki Vallabha Kara Sarma to rewrite a correct copy of Bhagavata of Jagannath Dasa. Maybe our scholars, our pandits here available in this audience webinar would be knowing all these things. But don't you think that Orissa, the land, was thinking of critical edition by that time itself? Just think of that. See, this is what Janaki Vallabha Kara saying. Ebe ho suna sadhu jane kahuchi tumbhara charane vyasa bhashita jagannatha bhashare varnile samasta se bhasha lekhaka doshare अन्यथा हेला ए संसारे से व्यास जगन्नाथ वाणी ये रूपे तुल्य परिमाणी ए रूपे विचार करिण जानकी वल्लभ ब्राह्मण गुंडीचा वाक्य अनुसारी सोधी लेखिली यत्न करी. What he is writing Sodhi means Sansodhana. Now what we say critical edition. Pandite nadhariva dosha sarvantarayami pitavasa. He says Sakabda chari satanei. What is his time? Sakabda chari satanei. Tab ame 16 संख्या दे एते सकाब्दे विष्णु ध्याई गुंडीचा वाक्य बद्ध होई लेखिली भागवत कथा सुनंते तुटे भव व्यथा. So the end of fifth skanda, it is that 1725. So it was exactly in 1725 itself. I mean, the beginning of 18th century, we had the critical edition of manuscript. Even though, oh sorry, there is he took. Oh, it is jumped in. He took 10 years to write, to revise this edition. He took 10 years to complete this manuscript. Even though the earliest writing of Odia script in manuscript we get 1493-94, but during 16th and 17th century, many manuscripts were not written. I do not know whether written it is lost, or we do not get, or our proper survey is not made. I do not know. Here written means I am telling the copy. Most of the manuscripts were written in Odia scripts are found belonging to 18th and 19th century. There are again manuscripts even copied in 1930 and 40. All the palm leaves are abundantly available, and Odia people knew the art of processing the leaves for writing. It could be done. Now, when this critical edition was made in 1800 something, the book was published in 1800, and why we were still writing till 1930-40 and palm leaves. Even though the land was suffering from the clutch of invaders, the frequent attack could not seize the intelligence and the educated milieu. The composition, copying, recopying of the different text was very much there in the land. That is why we get palm leaf manuscripts in lakhs lying in the land. Now I am telling exactly what is the challenges before us. So to make a proper, what Devi Patnaiks are told, to make a proper survey of the manuscripts of Odisha, within Odisha, outside the country. See, what I am just writing one verse from here. It's very popular verse in Odia, in Sanskrit. Na danena nabhuktena dhanena dhanine yodi prithikata nikhatena dhanena dhanino vayam. If we do not know how many manuscripts in Odisha we have, and what are they, what is the text, belonging to which century, do you have the right to say that we have 3 lakhs manuscript, 5 lakhs manuscripts? What is the point of saying all these things? If we will not, this, if one wealthy person, he does not donate, he does not enjoy this property, but he say, I am the dhani, I am the very wealthy person. Then we can say, pratikhat mines below the earth. Out of that, we are also the dhani, na? What is the point? If we do not keep with ourselves, then what is the point of saying? So what is the works to be done? Now this we have to think very seriously. So what is exactly our again challenge? Young scholars to be trained. Why we need more workshops to introduce the palm leaf writings, to train the scholars to handle the manuscript with primary care. Of course, the other care, the chemical cares handle can be done by the experts. But primary care, we know how to dry up in Bhodei Khara after the rain gets over. Then how the manuscripts were kept in the sunshine, the soft sunlight, and then how the strings were getting changed, and then to copy, edit, and critical edition. These are to be the works to be done. To have proper documentation of all the manuscripts written in Odia script. I'm saying it's Odia script. When you are writing the Odia script, do not care of whether it was in Sanskrit text or Odia text. It is our land, it is our people who have enriched the manuscripts. I'm saying the photo, this post-colophony, this is post-colophony, what we say, Pushpika or Uttara Pushpika. This is exactly, and this you can, yes. Sir, am I late?
Yes, you.
Can I continue for another 10 minutes?
Yes, you try to finish.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
This is getting over. It's getting
No,
over.
yes.
Yes. Sir, this is the post-colophony common verses exactly. Bhagna prushtah katigrivaha tulya drushti radhamukha. What this scribes is dukkhena likhitam grantham putravat paripalayat. See, this is the manuscript is a one manasa santan of somebody, whether he has composed it or whether he has copied it. But he has put all the efforts on it. And because of them, now we are telling that we have so many books, we are printing and all. And based on one book, when we are very proud, how many manuscripts are lying, whether we should do it or not. The colophony, the scribe says, my backside has been broken. My koti, the west part, the neck, everything is broken totally. And then tulya drushti, I'm just looking into the eyes, when I am copying from one text to other. Adho my face is down. Dukkhena likhitam grantham. With so much of difficulties, I have written that manuscript. Putravat paripalayat. Please take care of it as your son. And then he again says, suppose I may be mistake, I may be having some mistakes. Vimasyapi rane bhango munerapi matibhramaha yadi suddhang asuddhang ba. Bhima also got defeated, and Muni also have some problem. Yadi suddhang, maybe there will be some good or some lacuna in my writing. Mama dosa na vidyate. And this purposefully I have not done. So that is what again says, Granthakarta swayang vyasa lekhakastu vinayakaha. Tayar vichalita with even they are also having mistakes. Manushyanang chakakata. I am just a human being. So it's how Vinita that lekhaka is and what is our responsibility to have to think. That's all, sir. Now I have other slides, but it's peculiar manuscripts of Odisha, but if we do not have time, these are the peculiar manuscripts. And so far the text is concerned, it has no point. It is only peculiarity. These are the points, these manuscripts, the leaves have been joined into each other. This Ananta Sayana is made there. So this is the two leaves have been joined and Krishna Lila is presented here. This is a dagger format manuscript. How the nice, very present, the letters of Odia letters, how it has been presented. These are the things. So this is a manuscript on bamboo leaf. These are the, this. Thank you, sir. This, this is a manuscript exactly. Whole Vishnu Sahasranama has been written on only one palm leaf. And this is a giant supper. This is a picture of Jagannath temple of Puri. So this is Dasavatara fully what I have put in my presentation of first slide. Thank you, sir. This is a paper. These are the things. Anyway, this will take another time to cover. These are the manuscript covers. These are manuscript covers. in wood and ivory works. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, madam. Really, I feel that the whole of this webinar became successful for your presence. And I don't know whether another scholar is there in Odisha or not like you, and why our people of Odisha or government of Odisha is not taking such type of help of such type of knowledgeable and resource persons, that we are immensely grateful. And I cannot compare with any other scholar like you, because this is a whole vast of knowledge about manuscript, the tradition of Kedarnath Mahapatra and Pandit Nilamani Misra, that you are the only legacy, and I am very fortunate that I could contact you, and my webinar became very successful. And so many areas, I think perhaps one speech or one part of the webinar is not sufficient for you, and you have to speak about hours or about more several sittings or several sessions about the tradition of manuscript. I think perhaps from our center we will try to correlate the things, and will try again what you have suggested, and I will suggest to the proper authority of Government of Odisha as well as Government of India, and to contact with you in this line. And you should be separately awarded by Government of Odisha, and I will recommend your name for the highest award of our cultural base. So I am really thankful and obliged for your presence. Again, I extend my heartiest thanks
I have
to
one
you
word to speak.
and Professor Misra.
Sir, one word to speak exactly.
Yes, yes, yes.
Sir, Amiya sir, I am just having great regard to Amiya sir. Sir, I was a student of you when we were the guest faculty in our Sadasiv Kendriya Sanskrit Vidyapit. It is in 1974-75, I am telling. We were the students, so you would not be remembering us, but we remember you always. And my husband, Sinruddha Das, was your direct student. He was taking history as a subject. I did not have history. So, namaskar from here, sir.
In this webinar, madam, 4 generations of scholars are present here. They, beginning from Dr. Patnaik, he is the Gurunang Guru, and the next generation is Professor Patnaik, the former Vice Chancellor, who will now speak as his presidential address. And he, in his generation, Professor, our director star is also in his generation. I am also, and the other generation who are now coming, to whom you have given your suggestions for the young scholars, now they have to take the responsibility for the future time. Yes, now I have the privilege to request the chairperson of this webinar, Professor Amiya Kumar Patnaik, former Vice Chancellor of Utkal University of Culture, former Professor of History, and he is a great scholar. And not only that, is other also I should introduce him. I should give the recognition and introduction that he was the first chairman, the chairperson for bringing out the document for the Odia Classical Award. When we were preparing the document for classical Odia to present before the Government of India, he was the ex officio chairman, and he could coordinate in such a way that it could be successful. Now I have the privilege to invite him to present his presidential address. Sir, Professor Patnaik.
Thank you, Professor Panda. Good afternoon, all of you, especially Professor Patnaik, Professor Murthy, Professor Fernandez, Professor Acharya, and Mamata, the distinguished participants. At the outset, I thank Professor Panda for having invited me to preside over this function, this webinar. As a matter of fact, I must frankly admit, humbly say that I am neither an archaeologist nor an epigraphist, nor like Mamata. I take the privilege of calling her as Mamata because she has expressed that she was my student, so was her husband. So, numismatic experts in numismatology. Then, my only qualification, as Professor Panda said, I was a part of the team that drafted this document to be presented to Government of India for recognition of as classical status. Fortunately, I was the only history person in the team, and as a only history expert in the team, I have contributed whatever little possible, though I was chairman for some time, but later on I was also in the team. So as a teacher of history, I consider myself almost a part of this webinar. We have seen, we had experts, Professor Acharya and Madam Misra. They presented prepared speeches. I didn't have that privilege. Professor Panda did not give me a specific topic to present a prepared speech. As president, as the chairman of the webinar, I have to be well prepared throughout to listen to the topics delivered and to speak on that. But the two topics that are delivered here were so excellently, so brilliantly presented that they do not deserve any comment. But I would have been happy if Professor Subrat Acharya had taken it from the beginning. He started with by saying that the Asokan and post-Asokan Karaval period is overemphasized. So I will begin after that. But his paper would have been comprehensive and complete had it included or had it started from calling the Asokan period. But nevertheless, his paper was so nicely presented for the period he has chosen. It doesn't deserve any observation. And I have absolutely no expertise to speak on Mamata's paper because it was a technical one, but very enlightening. It was a lesson for all of us. I would like to say a single sentence on Professor D.P. Patnaik's small speech. Professor Patnaik from the beginning has been pessimistic. He ended by saying that the government has named the department has done precious little towards literature, language, culture and literature department. But let us have patience, sir. I always used to say, we have your blessings and with your support, the government will certainly do something. Let's have patience and wait. We have made a good beginning. Having Odia as a classical language was not a small thing. It was a dream come true. Although we had, we do have a rich history, a developed literature, and although we qualify out the entire requirements of the Government of India to declare Odia as a classical language, still we had to fight quite a bit. We had to struggle hard. It is a dream come true. We have to fight for our existence, very existence. We owe our classical status to those persons who have contributed, who have fought, because all through, during colonial period, we had to fight against Bengali literature, Telugu literature, and Hindi literature. because Odisha was divided into three parts. The three languages dominated us. In spite of that, we fought, succeeded, and maintained our originality. The scholars enriched the language. And from that stage, we have come to a stage where we have a classical language. So I will request, urge upon Professor Patnaik to have patience, to have his blessings, to carry on his counsel with the staff, his pressure with the government, and with Professor Basanta Panda in the chair. We think we will succeed soon. I will begin the small speech that I have prepared. Although before Kalinga War, we had our existence. Much before that, in Mahabharata, Ramayana, everywhere we have reference. But actual language part, writing part begins from Kalinga War. Kalinga was defeated in Kalinga War, but the defeat was no less glorious than victory. In defeat, Kalinga proved itself to be a culturally rich kingdom, and culture is also associated with language and literature. Administratively strong, culturally rich kingdom, Kalinga proved itself. So Kalinga established itself as a powerful kingdom even after the defeat in the Kalinga War. So Kalinga War was a turning point in the history of Odisha, in history of Odishan literature, art, architecture, and culture as well. Kalinga War after that had certain positive impacts on Odishan history. The first positive impact was spread of Buddhism. Ashoka became a Buddhist. All these things are well-known history. I did not explain to you in details, but spread of Buddhism in Odisha gave us the benefit of the establishment of a Buddhist university, the Pushpagiri Bihar, which is comparable to Nalanda. So establishment of a university in a state, in a small kingdom like Odisha, small I say with due apology, but a small and powerful kingdom like Odisha, Kalinga, establishment of a university, the stature of Nalanda. So this enriched our literature, certainly. This enabled us to grow further. Then the second impact of Kalinga War was extensive overseas trade and commerce. It is said that one of the reasons why Ashoka invaded Kalinga was to have access to the seaports of Kalinga. Magadha was a landlocked country. These are known facts. But whatever be the facts, before Ashoka, we had overseas trade. After Ashoka, it was further enriched because Ashoka used the Odishan ports, Kalingan ports, to send his emissaries to different countries in general and Sri Lanka in particular. So my point here is that we have neglected, Professor Panda to note, although I am myself considered as an expert on maritime history of Odisha, I say that we have, as of till now, we have not been able to explore the impact of language on overseas trade. We have always emphasized on its economic aspects. What were the items of export and import? How were the ships used? What was type? All these we have done. Language side, literature side, we have neglected. But it must have been there since it was a colony. Language and literature must have been there. As Professor Odia Sahu is one of the persons present, I see him here. He has done some work on Ramayana, but Ramayana is an all India context. Odishan context we need further research. In what way Odia language, whatever form it was during that time, has contributed to the interaction. How we have, certainly we have gone there and we have talked to them. We could not have talked to them in their language. There have been, we have evidence of art, architecture, culture, fairs, festivals, but nothing is known about literature. Nothing is known about language. So I request Professor Odia Sahu, if he is listening to me, and others, young scholars are coming up. I have shared myself. I encourage some of my young scholars to take up the issue of language and impact of language literature on maritime or overseas activities of Kalinga. Then after Kalinga War, we come to the period of Kharavela. Kharavela is a well-known thing. You all know it. The recorded history of Odisha begins from Hathigumpha inscription. Hathigumpha inscription as such is a developed writing. In historical research, we say epigraphy is a dependable source of history. Epigraphy, Professor Subrata dealt. We say he is there, a professor of history. So we say dependable among the sources of history. Epigraphy is quite a dependable source of history, because let us not say it's not a history class, but to have epigraphy, we need to record history, we need to writing. We have to have a language. So recording was well done. It was done nicely in Hathigumpha inscription. It was in verse form. And many of the languages, many of the words, as Professor Basanta Panda said in the beginning, so he quoted few words from Ashokan inscription. In Odia language, and that is why the foundation stone, we can say, although Odisha as Kalinga existed earlier, but the foundation stone was laid by Ashokan edicts, and it was further enriched, super refined by Hathigumpha inscription. It was a great asset. Then thereafter there were quite a number of inscriptions, and Professor Subrata Acharya has dealt in that directly. Then we have art and architecture. The temple walls were classrooms for the artists, social classrooms. What is like blackboards? What we teach to the students in the blackboard? This is this, this is this. This is a picture of giraffe. So the artists, the sculptors who build the temples, they use the temple walls as blackboards, social blackboards to teach the society, to tell to the society what it is. So temple walls are also equally important in literature. I am aware of the fact that Professor Basanta Panda tried to get one expert on architecture, but probably he approached many no one was available for the purpose. I wish he could do it later. So architecture, like epigraphy, is also equally important in the development of literature. And that part, as I have already told you, we have our impact on various other countries through maritime history, art and architecture. So that way we have also succeeded quite a bit. Then in other aspects, like as I said in the beginning, Professor D.P. Patnaik said that we have slowly progressed from different stages. We came to a stage of formation of Odisha in 1936. Then we came to a stage when Odisha became Odisha. Then we came to a stage where Odia became a classical language. Then we came to a stage when we have a department of language, literature and culture. So steadily we are progressing. And we have fought at every step. Not that we have become Odisha as a separate state on the language, on linguistic basis, the first province of the country on linguistic basis. No, it has not been achieved without struggle. Madhubabu had to go against Indian National Congress. He gave up, he considered formation of Odisha province as more important than having relationship with the Indian National Congress, because Indian National Congress did not support in Madras session, the formation of Odisha as a province, because there were many other demands. So that is a different story altogether. So at every stage we had to fight. Britishers called us Orissa. So Orissa became a separate province after a long fight. Then Orissa was converted to Odia. For that, probably Professor D.B. Patnaik and many others might have contributed. I do not know who prevailed upon the government to convert it to Odisha to Odia. Then, with the effort of all of us together, with the leadership, under the leadership, although I was the chairman, the leader was Professor D.B. Patnaik. We achieved this classical status. Then this, so throughout we have succeeded and we have fought and won. So I am optimistic we will fight and win, sure, under the leadership of all those experts. There are some present here, some are not here. Professor Basanta Panda has approached many. So let us hope the effort goes on, and Odias are fighters. They fought against, the fighting has started right from Kalinga War. We have exhibited our strength. We lie low, but when it comes to result, we always succeed. So that is the history of Odisha. We do not exhibit ourselves, or we don't oppose anybody openly, but we do not take anybody's punch calmly. We retreat, we reply back, and we succeed. So that is what will happen. I'm sure it's already time. With these words, I thank all these experts present here for the nice presentation, CIIL for the webinar, Professor Panda for organizing it so nicely, and for giving me the opportunity to preside over the function, and overall Professor D.P. Patnaik for having confidence in me, because when I completed history, writing history part in the preparation text, I gave it to him personally. He corrected it. He is not a teacher of history, not a historian, but he corrected my writing, and that is how it has come up. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. It is a saying that all well that ends well. Now at the end of this event, this is my duty to extend a hearty vote of thanks to all of you. I am really grateful. I am really thankful to you, sir, all of you, that this webinar organized by the Center of Excellence for Classical Odia becomes successful. For all of your presence, particularly I am immensely thankful to Professor Murthy, Director of CIL, Professor Patnaik for chairing this session, Dr. D.P. Patnaik for attending this webinar, two of our key speakers, Professor Acharya and Madam Dr. Mamata Misra, and all many distinguished participants from various parts of the country and abroad. I am very much thankful and glad that people from all the corners of this country, not only from CIL Mysore, but from Delhi, my friend Udanath Sahu is there continuously from JNU. My friend from Delhi University, Professor P.C. Patnaik is there. My teacher, like my mentor, Professor B.N. Patnaik is also there. He is attending. I couldn't see him, but he is there. Many persons, and Madam Josna Raut from Guwahati University. So many persons I could see. My friend Harmohan Misra. so many persons from different parts of the country, from different educational institutions and universities, persons from Canada, USA, and UK. They have also associated with this webinar because they are very conscious people in their places for coordinating the culture and language of Odia. So with all the participation of all them, it is a successful thing. I again and again extend my heartiest thanks to all of you, and also I seek your cooperation and help for our this continuous endeavor on the behalf of the center. Thank you all, sir. Namaskar.